I had no money when I came here. I was pretty broke. I shared a bed with another girl in a girl's boarding house. So I threw a party and I went to a rooftop that no one went to, told them I was going to bring 200 people. Dating apps can be a minefield, especially for you single men out there. I got robbed twice. The guy took my statement in front of the guy that just robbed me, including wanting to know my phone number and my address. And I'm like, I'm not comfortable giving that in front of the person who has just robbed me. I have this huge scar on my knee. Should I show it here? That's a 46-stitch scar. I was in the hospital. So she runs to meet me there. She starts yelling at everybody. She says, Kristy, they call this the Pasillo del Muerte, like the aisle to death. An apartment close-ish to the center are being used for Airbnbs. So they won't charge you normal rental prices, they'll charge you hotel prices. If you want to live like someone from the US, someone from Europe, Australia, in Cartagena, it'll be expensive. Okay, so my biggest struggle is you can do maybe 2 things a day. They'll search you, they'll ascertain exactly how much money you have from that search, and then they'll know how much bribe to ask for. There's a 10% that might be wealthy, and then 90% that are not at all.
Welcome back to Generic Expats. Today we have a super special guest that's going to be giving us a very unique story that is going to give you a lot of information about a place that a lot of people have considered to be mostly a tourist place, but actually a lot of foreigners call this city home. So let's go ahead and get to know her. What's your name?
Hi everybody, I'm Kristy Ellis. I've been living in Cartagena, the Indias now for 12 years.
Great. And where are you from?
I'm from Brisbane, Australia.
This is kind of a very unique opportunity for me because I have not met any Australians on my trip yet. You're the first person. So that's really cool. Thank you.
I'm going to set a high standard.
I would like to know how an Australian arrived here to Cartagena and called it home. You've been here, you said 12 years?
12 years, yeah.
So how did an Australian make it here and spend so much time here? Go ahead and give us a rundown of your story.
Okay, sure. I'm 43 years old and I had just always wanted to live overseas my whole life. And after turning 30, I was like, now's the time. I want to do and live that dream of living overseas, having that experience in a different culture. I was drawn really to living in places in Asia originally, and that was kind of like on the horizon for me. And then my friend invited me to her wedding in California, and that was going to be on the 3rd of June. And I was getting ready to leave in December. So at that point of time, I had wound up any work commitments. I'd finished some studies and I was a completely free agent. And I was looking not only where I would live, but what I would be doing. I was a blank slate. So I was really open to anything. So when this opportunity to go to the wedding came up, I thought, well, why don't I travel South America for the first time? I'll buy a one-way ticket to Buenos Aires. I'll work my way up South America until I get to this wedding in California. And then at that point, maybe I've found somewhere I want to live in South America. If not, at that point, I'll move to Asia. So that was kind of like my very loose plans. My only commitment at that stage was a wedding in California. So then I am also considering what job I'm going to be doing. And the more I traveled, the more I realized that I really liked tourism and I could see myself being good at it and being able to make a living from it. So I actually had this kind of loose idea of doing a tourism company based on the Amazing Race TV show, which I was kind of addicted to at the time. So I put into Google beach history South America because I thought they would be good elements for my first, starting point for this Amazing Race business. And when I saw Cartagena came up from those Google searches and watched the Anthony Bourdain episode when he came here, I was sold. So I actually skipped most of South America, arriving to Cartagena, falling immediately in love. The Spanish they use here is actually tragada, like absolutely tragically in love. And not with any person. I really get annoyed when people are like, oh, are you here for a guy? Did you fall in love? No. And this is not Eat, Pray, Love. I hate that book. So cliche. And then in the end, she didn't learn anything. She threw it all for a guy again. Anyway, no, I fell in love with the city, and like any good lover, I wanted to know all my lover's secrets, and I went about, learning about the culture, the history, learning the language, And yeah, and when I got here, I saw so much opportunity to work in tourism here. And yeah, 12 years in, it's been a great decision.
So let's talk a bit about tourism. What you offer here in Cartagena is very unique, and you brought me yesterday to go on that tour. It was fantastic. I really learned a lot, ate some cool food. And I mean, I've been in Latin America for like a decade, and you taught me things about the fruit I didn't even know about, which is awesome. Like, I mean, you can teach from beginner to advanced, so that's amazing. Can you tell us a bit about that tour that you do?
Yes, so that particular tour you did, I call it the shortcut to local tour. It does include trying a lot of local foods and street food in particular. And yeah, I wanted to be kind of a master class in a 2-hour window on Cartagena in particular, but also there's a lot of insights into Colombia generally. When I first came to Cartagena, the tourism that existed was really focused on the cruise ship market. And it was a particular, route that they would do to try and help people move through the city without actually interacting with any locals and get as much money out of them in commissions as possible. That's probably a very, what's the word?
Pretty
opposite of naive, jaded view of it. But yeah. So when I got here, no one was doing a street food tour. No one was doing anything about the street art. No one was taking people to the local market, Mercado Basuto. This is where I saw my opportunity to say something different about tourism here and connect people with what I would be interested in. So yeah, I was the very first person to take people to the Mercado Basuto. Now there's a lot of people that do it, but at the time when I did that tour, about 3 weeks later, there was a journalist looking for someone to take them to the market, and that journalist was coming from New York Magazine. So I got a New York Magazine feature after about 3 weeks of working as a guide here.
Besides the featured article in the New York Magazine, were there other places where you've been featured?
Yes, I've been really lucky. Actually, just recently, about 3 months ago, I managed to get a shout out in New York Times, their 36 Hours in Cartagena guide. Also appeared in a great article in Conde Traveler. There's been a bunch, Travel and Leisure. So I've been really, really lucky. Rough Guides features me. I'm not in Lonely Planet, which was always my travel Bible. And as a fellow Australian, I think they should rectify that and give me a shout out. But yes.
Lonely Planet, get your stuff together, right?
Please. So that also helped me be Googleable. And I made my website. I had no money when I came here. I was pretty broke, so I taught myself everything with YouTube articles. Made a logo with Odesk, if you remember Odesk, paying someone in India $10 to design my logo. And it was like, it's an adventure. But yeah, back to the tours. The other tours I do, like the street art tour, Getsemani focus at that stage. I was living in Getsemani, and most tourism avoided Getsemani, considering it dangerous. But living there, I knew better and knew that people like me would want to go somewhere like there. And I mean, I basically do a range of options. A private tour can be basically anything. So it can be all of the above, but it can also be a focus on literature. Everyone loves Gabriel Garcia Marquez, myself included. It could be just purely orientating you for your rest of your stay. It could be a shopping tour. I get repeat visits from a number of clients who come back purely for Cartagena and Colombian fashion, which is really incredible, unique, and world-class. So that's definitely something I love to do. The artesanía, this is like a beautiful woven Colombian hat, for example. What other tours I love food tours. I would consider myself a foodie, and I love to connect people with that. And then my website, which in addition to having the list of the products that I offer, is also like a guide for people. So I have a lot of information about the activities you can do, but also life here. The ins and outs, frequently asked questions. Is it always this hot? Yes, it's always this hot, etc.
The tour I went on was the walking and food tour. What are the other main tours, like their most popular ones?
Yeah, so Mercado Basuto is a main one.
Yeah.
Generally private tour, which is what I just explained before. So
Yep.
a little bit of everything. It can be tailor-made for what you're looking for.
Sure.
A history-only tour, a heads and money tour, which includes focus on the street art. And they're the tours that I personally do, but then we also have things like trips to the mangroves, going to Palenque, obviously the islands visits. And that stemmed the tours that are offered by external providers. After doing a tour, everyone had all these questions on what they should do, and it can be pretty confusing. And to have someone that you can trust to manage the process, to manage the booking, to give their recommendation, that's where that second arm of what I do came into it. So managing the booking process, it's zero extra for the client. The companies pay me the standard commission that they pay everybody.
Yeah.
Which just kind of covers our costs in the matter. But yeah, so that's the other arm. And then, like I said, the third arm is kind of general recommendations about Cartagena.
Great. Awesome. Where can people find this information? What's your website and your social media?
Okay, so the website's cartagenaconnections.com. One of the great ways to like kind of greet someone here, you give them a fist bump and they say, "Conectate." So you go, "Conectate." Boom. Yeah.
Did you explode?
I didn't
No
explode, sorry. I normally explode.
You're a normal exploder.
I got nervous. But yeah, so I really am all about connections, and I love to make other connections with people like what you're doing. Initially, I was like one of the main welcoming committees of the Expats of Cartagena, which I think we'll probably get into later. But connecting for me is really important. I kind of think that's what we're here to do.
Right.
Division, no. Connection, yes.
So what are your social medias?
And Cartagena Connections at
Is it Facebook?
Instagram and at Facebook.
Okay.
I'm not on TikTok.
I just started recently, so don't worry.
Yeah, it uses up so much phone memory and battery.
And it's hard to put everything on every single platform, so I understand. Yeah.
I've got the goal. It's on my to-do.
YouTube is coming up, so you got some checks coming up.
Nice.
So that's coming up.
And then my personal, which you're always welcome to follow along my adventures, is Hola Kristy.
On Instagram.
On
right?
Instagram, yeah.
Right, awesome. You mentioned that you came here from Australia, and where you're from is actually considered like basically a tourist paradise, an amazing, beautiful place, and you came to a place that maybe Australians don't come to often. Do they often ask you what you're doing here?
More Colombians will be like, "You come from Australia, which is our dream destination. What are you doing in our country?" And to be honest, that's one of the ways I think that I gained a lot of favor with locals, because I was so demonstratively in love with their city. And you know, they really responded really well to that, to have an Australian choose their home and celebrate their food and celebrate their culture and what makes them unique and special. My mum, of course, in Australia begs me every day to come back. But for the most part, I think Australians, if we can get over the fact it's so darn far, it's a very Australian-friendly travel destination, and the Australians that do come absolutely fall in love with it.
Awesome. Speaking of living here, since you are living here for 12 years, you've been here for a long time, do you plan on living here for the rest of your life, or what are your plans?
I mean, never say never. If I consider another destination, it would have to offer more than I have here, which will be hard to beat. I have, I love my home. I love my work. It's like I've got a master's degree in Cartagena at this stage. I have community. I mean, I don't even need to make plans. I just wander around and stumble into friends everywhere. And I love that. I have this huge scar on my knee. Should I show it here?
Sure.
So that's a 46-stitch scar. And I got that scar from a motorbike accident. I was taking a motor taxi, which is one of the ways you can get around here, all the way out to a remote neighborhood. And a car hit us. And I got this big wound that locally they call a champronazo. And they stitched me up. And I had to be, because especially in the knee, it's hard to heal. I had to be off my feet for, I think it was like a good 12 weeks maybe, or 10 weeks. So during that time, first of all, it was helpful because I used that time to write a lot of content on my website, because I was finally stopping from walking around and gallivanting around Cartagena. And the second thing that happened was it really showed me the community I have here. I mean, you have friends in the good times, of course, but to know that I had this community that supported me when things weren't going well for me, when I needed someone to drive me places, to pick me up from other things, to drop off medicine, to visit me, to lift my spirits. And I had that here. which I feel really grateful for. And it also has made me see how often we don't have that in other parts of the world.
The community, not only the locals, but other foreigners, you have a good connection with all of them?
Yeah, I would say it'd be 70% Colombians and 30% expats.
Yeah.
And you've got to be careful with the word expat. There's a lot of people, like, for example, from Venezuela that are here that are technically expats, but aren't included in that community for the most part. So often when they say expats, they mean, white people. So yeah, we're all immigrants here. But yeah, I'd say like 70% would be from Colombia and 30% would be not from Colombia.
Speaking of the expat or foreign community, where do most of them live around the city? Do they live in the same neighborhood as you?
There's definitely some expats living in my neighborhood. It's called Manga. I love that neighborhood, Manguera. I would say most tend to live in the Castillo Grande, Boca Grande area, which is the beach neighborhoods, basically the beach neighborhoods. So also Cabrero, which is the other side of the World City area, and the northern sector, with some probably living in the Centro area, Sukalaki, and also the Hetsamani area. But yeah, there are some people living in Manga. That would be where the majority go for. For the people who are really looking to spend less money and immerse more in local culture, anywhere from like Pia La Popa down to where you're staying, La Plaza Huelera.
I'm in a very local area.
Yeah, but respect.
Of this foreign community, is it very friendly community? Do you often go to meetups and hang out with them, or how is the community here?
Yeah, I think for early on, I was just really excited to meet people all the time. Now it's been 12 years and I'm kind of at saturation for how many people I can remember.
Sure, yeah.
But I still, do contribute to expat forums and things, and we'll meet up with people, occasionally. And when I meet someone who's like here for a while, I'm like, okay, let's be friends. But it is also a transient population that moves through here. So you can't just keep investing with people that are here for, a short time. But yeah, so I think there are a couple of, strong expat groups that are here. A lot of really, fun members. You also attract people from everywhere. So you can also see people that aren't your kind of people. So when that element surfaces, I tend to stay back a bit.
And for those that don't know, we actually connected on one of these groups, on one of these platforms on Facebook. So that's how we met.
Yes.
And she's, like she said, she's active on it. She responded to me asking about, hey, any foreigners out there, any expats, any people living here that want to chat? So that's why we're here. Awesome. So yeah, I believe also I went to an expat event in, what's that place called? Costrepo, next to the airport. Crespo. And the expat group that I met, they're super friendly people. They had actually just started meeting up. That was their first meetup.
Okay,
but I was like, wow, they're super friendly, everyone. And I wasn't expecting such a big group because, like you said, it's a transient tourist population that usually comes and goes. And living here, I've lived in Cancun and Rio de Janeiro, like super, super touristy places. It can be a little exhausting, right? To have that flow constantly and who could I meet? Who's going to stay? Right? So I understand that. What would be one of the biggest struggles living here?
Okay, so my biggest struggle is if you need to rely on anyone else to do something for you to be able to do things on your to-do list, you can do maybe 2 things a day. If you need to go to the bank and then you maybe need to renew some document or 2 things a day maximum, maybe only 1. Don't set a to-do list with multiple things to do. If it involves you just going around and, just collecting things, that's fine. But if you rely on other people to complete something for you to be able to tick that thing off your list, don't be ambitious. Put 1 to 2 things on that list. Because there's a lot of inefficiency in terms of bureaucracy in particular.
The pace of life is pretty slow as well, right here. Compared to even the rest of Colombia, this is considered to be a slower pace of life.
Yes,
too, right?
indeed.
So that's definitely a good thing for people to understand that it's not like going to Medellin. I mean, of course, the inefficiency is all through Colombia, but here, I'm sure it's a little bit even worse.
I've seen Germans self-destruct looking at the inefficiency in a bank line. But it's also why for my business, I also focus on having walking tours where you show up, there's no mechanics that can interfere with you being able to do the tour, like the driver canceling or the bus not working or whatever. We walk and we get to interact with the community. We're involved a lot more. It is hot. but it's only a couple of hours. And that's also one of my secrets to my success, I think. Being kind of in control in an uncontrollable way.
There you go. Yeah, being independent of those forces.
Exactly.
Besides, like, thinking about the expats and the foreigners that live here, what about like the cost of living here? Because a lot of Colombians say the cost of this city is one of the highest, it's one of the most expensive. Do you consider it pretty expensive?
Yes, I do, and it's increasing constantly in price. The biggest factor is your accommodation, where you're going to be staying, and that's a big part of it. Is because most of the places that you could rent out as a tourist, as an expat, to be like an apartment close-ish to the center, are being used for Airbnbs. So they won't charge you normal rental prices, they'll charge you hotel prices. So that's a huge factor. Then if you want to live like someone from the US, someone from Europe, Australia, in Cartagena, it'll be expensive. But if you can adopt as much as possible the life of a Colombian while you're here, it can be really inexpensive, your cost of living day to day.
Do you live like a European, Australian, or like a Colombian?
In between.
Okay.
In between. I definitely do like to go out for like really nice dinners, but I cook at home a lot, and I like to cook with local ingredients. I like to buy local, and the activities I like to do are free activities like dancing and running and walking, and so yeah, it can be really inexpensive. I go everywhere walking. I don't have a car. I don't Uber. I walk or ride my bicycle. And my accommodation is really affordable because I've been in the same place for like 10 years. And
you furnished it yourself?
Yeah.
So what would a between Colombian and foreign lifestyle be in terms of budget? What more or less would that cost?
So I think you mentioned before, like about $1,000 a month. Like $1,000 a month, I could live really well. I'm probably under that.
Yeah. So with that, like combination of slightly international type of, slightly local type of lifestyle, it's about 1,000 or less.
Yes.
Okay. And do you think it takes some time to get to that point of like learning how to get to that point? Like, did you start when you came here and you spent 2,000 or 3,000 a month, or did you?
I was such a tight ass. Oh my goodness. When I first came here.
You spend more now than before?
Oh yeah. When I first came here, I was like trying to have this like $0 days frequently. I was not even in my own bed. I shared a bed with another girl in a girl's boarding house. They call them pensione. And I would, like, the egg was like 250 pesos for an egg. I would get like 2 eggs, which is like cents. And I'd buy vegetables, and that would be my lunch. But I was working in tourism even from the beginning. And the company where I first started working for would invite me to these, gala dinners and free whiskey parties. And so I had this like, champagne experiences on like everyone on a serious budget. So that kind of leveraged things out a bit. But yeah, I was paying so little for my rent. I was cooking everything at home. I was not drinking to save money. So I wouldn't drink. And I would meet people who I had friends at the restaurants after they'd already eaten. Like, I was really on a budget. When I first came here, this company I was working for, the second month they didn't have enough money for my wages. So I was like, what do I do? So I threw a party, and I went to a rooftop that no one went to, told them I was going to bring 200 people. I got the door, you put on the bar, 200 people came, that paid my rent.
There you go.
And I did that for I did about 5 rent parties.
So I'm
pretty resourceful.
Seems like you're pretty flexible and an innovative person, finding ways to make things work all the time.
I'm really not scared of, money is not one of my big priorities at all. I always know that I'll be supported. I always know I'll have money. But yeah, that mindset of saving, not spending. I was just, when I started to earn money, I would hide it under my like mattress, literally. And then after a while, I was like, maybe I should see how much money's there, because I just wasn't spending. I was just kept getting money and putting it under there. And I had lots of money. And I was like, oh, I don't have to live this way anymore. And so like slowly I would just introduce little by little more luxuries into my life. Got a better apartment, would be generous with my friends when we went out, which was the only reason I like to have money, is to be generous and to travel. So yeah.
Well, it's good to hear like that other foreigners are like definitely like engaging and part of like the local economy and local culture and stuff. Because sometimes when I do meet some foreigners, I feel like they're not super active in that respect. But I mean, everyone has their own style of
Yes.
comfort, right? So everyone wants this or that or whatever. And I kind of have the same as you. I think a mixture of both. I like having international food from time to time, going out from time to time, I eat in every morning and evening. So I get what you're saying with all those things. Let's switch courses to a different topic, which is about safety, because Cartagena is what I consider maybe a more dangerous place. I was planning on driving up here, but I already got extorted by police in Medellin and lost a bunch of money, 2 million pesos. And coming up here before my visa expired, I'm like, if I have any problems driving up there, it's 2 days drive, blah, blah, blah. So long story short, I just didn't want to get involved in the police. The police here are everywhere, all these traffic police everywhere. So I'm like, I'm glad I didn't drive, to be honest. And so I wanted to get your opinion about not so much traffic police, because you said you walk everywhere. So what about safety in terms of petty crime? Have you ever had any problems with petty crime here in Cartagena?
I mean, I'm first of all to say I'm really, really lucky. I'm gonna knock on wood when I say that. And I also have a kind of belief, not to like victim blame, but I do believe a lot that your energy and your frequency attracts things with a similar frequency. So
Sure.
if you're walking around being scared that someone's going to rob you, it's almost like you're inviting it. So that said, I got robbed twice, and both times I got everything back because I'm extremely lucky.
Oh,
Yeah. So one time I was walking through a busy market and someone bumped me. I had a bag full because I was going to do some cooking. I was inviting everyone over for dinner. And instead of like lodging my wallet back deep in the bag, the mochila that I carry, I just kind of like had it loosely near the top. Rookie mistake. Bumped into someone, didn't know for sure, but watched him change direction immediately. And my like little, I don't know, those little hairs or whatever, I was like, pay attention to that. So I started following him. I'm trying to find my wallet in my bag. And as I'm like following behind him, someone said, hey, did that guy take something from you? And I said, I think so. So the guy stopped and immediately handed me back my wallet and said, oh, you dropped it. And I said, thank you. Great. I walked away thinking, wow, thank you, angels, once again, saving me from an uncomfortable situation. And then I see this pack, like a mob of people coming towards me. And then they go, there she is. And then I'm thinking, what is going to happen next? Like, oh my goodness. What could this possibly be? And they had actually the guy who just robbed me in the middle of them, and they were holding him. And then they came up to me and said, you have to denounce him. You have to go to the fiscalia, like the way you would report a crime, and denounce this person because you caught him in the act. And I'm like, I got my stuff back. I'm good. I'm like, don't want to get involved in any of this. Yeah. And then actually someone I knew was part of this like mob. I said, Kristy, if you don't do it, they keep doing it. So I said, okay, I better do the right thing. Went to the CAI, which is like the local police station. And when I say that police station, it is a tent with a couple of chairs, kind of shady, but not really, on the side of a road. So I went there while the guy took my statement in front of the guy that just robbed me, including wanting to know my phone number and my address. And I'm like, I'm not comfortable giving that in front of the person who has just robbed me and is like, obviously, a petty criminal. So I was whispering it. Then they transported me together with this guy to the Fiscalia, where you actually make the full report. And he's sitting next to me, pleading with me not to denounce him while we're driving there, telling him about his family. It was so uncomfortable, so inappropriate. And they wonder why people don't denounce. Like,
right. That sounds super uncomfortable. Did you only get robbed those 2 times, or have you had another one besides that one?
Yeah, just those 2 personally. Of course, I hear about it with my clients as well. Sometimes I see groups of guys just doing everything wrong, like coming out straight from the ATM with a big wad of money and then immediately just like folding into their back pocket. And then every time they want to pay something, they pull out the whole wad and just like count through it to pay off like, $1. And then they put it back. And I'm like, guys, so I think there's a lot of like naivety. As someone who's traveled a lot, I'm probably naturally a lot more aware. There is a local expression here. They say, no de papaya. Like, don't make yourself an easy target. Don't go not taking care of that big soft papaya fruit. So look after it.
Are there any suggestions you could give to people to not give the papaya?
Okay, so that thing about a big wad of money, have maybe even have like a sacrificial wallet that you have like low amounts in and keep your big money somewhere else, somewhere safe. This is also important, which unfortunately there is a lot of corruption in the police force here. They're not well paid and they tend to make their own salaries out of what they can get out of people from bribes. Now, not condoning it in any way, but there's a lot of expats, foreigners that come here that like to engage in illegal substances, and police love that. They don't necessarily want to prosecute you for that. They want to catch you with it so they can scare you into giving them a bribe for not going through they don't actually want to take you to the police station because it's a pain. They have to write lots of documents. It's annoying for them. They just want you to pay them a bribe. So what they'll do is they'll search you. They'll ascertain exactly how much money you have from that search, and then they'll know how much bribe to ask for. So if you have a sacrificial wallet that has only an amount that is like a comfortable amount for you to lose, like it's not fun at any time, but keeping a smaller amount, I would definitely recommend that. I don't like taxis. My friend got robbed by someone using taxis. And I prefer Ubers. You have your address, you are being tracked by GPS the whole time. You have their contact if you accidentally leave something in there. So I definitely prefer taking Ubers. Dating apps can be a minefield, especially for you single men out there. So you can definitely find a lot of information about that on your expat forums of people who have been swindled in various ways. It does work out. Colombian women are amazing. Colombian men are great. I would be very mindful how much information you give, meeting up people solo, and meeting in public. There's probably a lot of other stranger danger type things you should be doing. When you had a big day out on the boat and you're coming back very tipsy or worse, be very mindful of your things. There are people waiting to prey on you in this, and same thing when you're leaving clubs as well. But I've heard a lot of people getting robbed after their boat days, of people that are just like, and in the confusion of lots of people, you lose your wallet or someone pickpockets you or they take your phone or they show you an address and they run off with it. So it's hard. Maybe if you have a designated sober person just to kind of like keep you in check, but be mindful of that as well.
Those are all really good tips. So I considered Colombia in general, I was telling you about this, that it's kind of like a Latin American destination, a bit more for the advanced traveler because of all these things you have to really think of. If you're leaving the United States for your first time, coming to Cartagena or pretty much anywhere, Colombia is a kind of a difficult country for a first-time traveler. So yeah, it's definitely, there's a lot of tips, and I'm really happy and thankful you're able to share all these things because I didn't know half of them either. The boat thing makes sense in Cancun and stuff. I'm sure that's a similar situation, but Colombia has those issues. So for everyone coming here as a first-time tourist, you have to be really cautious. You mentioned before when we chatted during the tour that you got a residency permit. How was the process of getting the residency permit?
Well, it's much more difficult now. At the time, it was really quite easy. You have to show proof that you've been in a relationship for 2 years. You lived together for 2 years. That wasn't my case. Should I say that out loud? But I could show that I've been here for that period of time and that we're in a relationship. And then after you've been in a de facto relationship or marriage for 3 years, then you can apply for residency. That's the fastest track. It's through a relationship visa. Investment visas, nomad visas, work visas. You will have to have the same visa continuously for 5 years before you can apply for residency. And it can be a bit harder to meet the requirements.
Right. There's a lot of different visas. It's kind of a very personalized situation, right? You have to really find what you're looking for, how long you're planning to stay, and all those things.
Yeah.
Do you have any experiences dating locals, or how is? Yeah. Can you talk a bit more of your dating life here?
So yeah, definitely. Well, I speak Spanish, so for me, I think it's I've got a wider pool of people I can interact with because, yes, for me, it is important that I have a conversation with the person that I'm dating. I've seen a lot of men that come here that don't have that as a prerequisite, but only slight judgment. But yeah, no, unfortunately, yeah, I think nowadays the dating apps are overrun with people who are professionals for the most part, in terms of, they call them damas de compañía. Not everyone on the apps is that, but it is a I mean, would you say yes? For
Right.
women, no. I mean, as a woman trying to meet a guy, you're not really meeting, what do you call them? Gigolos? But for men, I think a lot of the people on the dating apps tend to be professionals. They'll normally be upfront or they'll even say it in their description so
Sure.
you know what you're getting. But there's a lot of people that want that, so fine.
And your dating experiences here have been really positive here?
So I've had really good positive dating experiences. In another life, one of my jobs was as a recruitment. I worked in recruitment, recruiting lawyers, and I feel like it's kind of related to dating. You like get a profile, you kind of make certain decisions about someone, you interview them. And I feel like I'm really good at reading people, getting a vibe from people from the dating profile, whether they'll be right for me or not. Certain things that I look for that I think means that no matter what, we'll have a good time, whether it's like meant to be love or anything. But yeah, so I've had really positive experiences. Yeah.
Do you have any tips for any women that are considering coming here and perhaps dating locals?
Yeah, I think the issue with Cartagena dating, which is not the case in Medellin and Bogota for the most part, is there's not really a middle class in Cartagena. So it's a really economically unequal city. There's a 10% that might be wealthy and then 90% that are not at all. So it's a really kind of small pool in that sense. And then the rest of everyone else is really quite transient. So in that case, it can be quite difficult to date in Cartagena. Also added to the fact it's a Catholic country, people tend to marry and couple up quite young. So that can be a factor for people dating. I've had positive experiences, but I think that should be something that people are aware of coming here.
Let's switch gears a bit to healthcare, because you mentioned your knee. And
Yes.
healthcare is like one of those things where people are like, I don't know, like the developing world, healthcare, I don't know. Can you give us a bit of more details about your surgery?
Yeah, so I mean, very lucky. This is another fun tip. If you're ever in an accident in Cartagena, and no matter what it is, when you're calling for an ambulance, tell them it's a motor vehicle accident because they'll come immediately, because there's compulsory third-party insurance in Colombia so that the ambulances know they're going to get paid. If it's any kind of accident, like, oh no, I fell off a ladder, they will want to check the insurance and check your ability to pay for them before they'll show up.
Wow.
So that's just like a fun tip. So yeah, because it was a motor vehicle accident, and actually I got hit right in front of a clinic. So I'm really lucky, even when I'm having bad luck. So the ambulance was right there. They loaded me up. Actually, one of the neighbors recognized me and took a video and sent it to me of me being waved up, and I'm waving to my supporters like, don't cry for me, Argentina. And I got taken straight to the hospital. And at that stage, I'm waiting it's not one of the top hospitals. It's not where expats would normally go. It was in one of like a more far out neighborhood. And while I'm waiting there, my roommate had been told by a neighbor that I was in the hospital. So she runs to meet me there, and she's from Cartagena. She starts yelling at everybody. She says, Kristy, they call this the Pasillo del Muerte, like the passageway, the aisle to death. Because if you're not there, if you're not making a lot of noise, squeaky wheel gets the oil, they'll just ignore you for, the loudest wheel.
Oh, okay.
So she actually started yelling at everybody and insisted on them seeing me immediately. So then they wheeled me in, stitched me up. There was all of it was out of, like, I didn't pay for anything, but there was an optional x-ray, which I paid for, which was, I think, $40 equivalent out of pocket. And I paid that, and that was it. The medication I paid, very affordable. So that's my experience. So don't do what I do, but I don't actually have insurance. Everyone else, if you have a job here, you will get insurance automatically as part of that, and it's a good insurance. And if you want to pay for insurance, it's really affordable. There's no real excuse except that I kind of believe in I self-insure, so keep money aside. The thing I don't like about insurance companies is you have to go where they tell you to go, and I'd rather just choose when I need it. And really, I've been to seek any kind of medical help, I think once in the last like 3-4 years.
Wow.
So it's a really rare occasion for me. So I don't I've got to be really careful, like putting those things out there. But no, I should probably have insurance, but I don't. But
Okay,
everyone else, yeah.
no judgment. I also don't have insurance. All right, I get travel insurance. This
I feel
whole
very
thing.
judged by that.
I go to the doctor, local doctor, wherever I am for whatever I need. I have zero concern of okay, well,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do if you go somewhere if something happens? Well, I'll just go to the doctor wherever there's a doctor.
And
Like,
out
that's
of pocket cost for me going to the doctor is like really low.
so. Besides the X-ray that you paid for, what was the total bill of the like? Did you charge for the surgery?
No.
That was like a free
By
public
the
hospital
third-party insurance.
Oh, the certain insurance. Okay.
Third-party insurance.
Right.
Later, the guy who was driving the motorbike, he broke his leg actually, and he joined me to the lawsuit against the guy that hit us.
Uh-huh.
This guy actually happens to be a lawyer for most of my friends, and he felt really bad about it. But they just left it in insurance hands. I didn't seek any claim, even though I'm a former lawyer. I kind of believe in personal responsibility, and I hadn't been adversely affected too much, apart from this, beautiful. Oh, my modeling career's over. I mean, so it actually gives me a lot of credibility, and
Street
I kind of
cred.
like it. Yeah, even though as an Australian, people think it's a shark bite injury. I wish it was that cool, but yeah.
Well, thanks for that story because I mean, I also like when I go to a new country, I'm also like, everyone has that fear of the unknown, and like just going to a place like Colombia or Cartagena, it's like you don't know what to expect. Is there a certain hospital for people that do live here that you recommend? Because you went to a public one that maybe is not recommendable.
Yeah, so I mean, it was fine, but yeah, the ones that you want to go to are Serena del Mar, which is in the northern zone, and MediHelp, which is in Boca Grande, and they're both 24 hours. You can go there and you'll find bilingual medical professionals and a great level of service. And nowadays, medical tourism is huge and on the rise, from everything from, plastic surgery, dental, eye, but now stem cell implants, which isn't actually even possible in other places, is being led by experts in Colombia. So
Actually, I interviewed the owner of the stem cell company Reju in Medellin before I came here, and his name is Eric. And Eric, the Erics together at last.
Well, it's a generic name.
It was yes. Loved it. Okay, so we actually chatted quite a bit. I didn't know anything about it, and I wanted to tell his story and give people information about this new thing that's so, in the United States, it's really regulated super hard, and it's not really
Australia
a thing
too. Yeah.
in both of our countries. So it's such an interesting thing that this country is kind of leading the way next to like China and other places, which is, it's like part of healthcare that it's like something you wouldn't think of other countries that are developing to have, but it's like, okay, well, they have less regulations in certain regards, so then they can actually advance faster.
Yeah, so lots of people coming in with like sports people in particular, getting it in their knees and where they have like early onset arthritis. Yeah, it's really exciting.
Right, awesome. And let's wrap it up by talking a bit more about other things that you can recommend for people to do here besides your tour, because your tours and all the stuff you have, like what are other things that you give recommendations for people to do as in terms of entertainment for both tourists and expats?
Yes. Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to say to mostly the North American audience that you don't have to plan every minute of your trip to Cartagena. I think you guys get such short vacations that when you do have one come up, you want to like micro plan your entire trip, and that doesn't work for Cartagena. I think book a few big things, but then leave the magic of Cartagena to seduce you and have a lot of space for free time and naps because it's hot and you'll want to like go back to your place and have a nice delicious nap or find a hammock and do that. So that's at the outset. I think definitely one of the best things about Cartagena and Colombia generally is the live music and the music generally. It is so diverse and incredible musical genres: cumbia, champeta, merengue, mapalé, burengue. There's the amount of different type of music styles that come from this one country is boggling. And then of course, we have our live salsa bars and we have, clubs as well. But for me, music, Colombia's music, not just the actual music that they're playing, and they play it everywhere. We had to try, 7 different venues because everything had music that was too loud for this interview. But the food moves with music. The street sellers will be shouting out their wares with a song. I have a lot of love for the music, definitely. So I would definitely feature that in some way. And if you're up to it, and I definitely encourage this, get some kind of dance lesson as well. Try and connect with champeta, which is a really fun, it's easy to pick up, and it comes from Cartagena. It was a music style that used to be looked down upon because it was mostly working class and black. But just like hip hop in the States, now it's mainstream, and being called champetuo is no longer an insult as it used to be. So yeah, I will cover it on my tour if you do the tour with me, as you should. But also just look into champeta culture generally, get a class. You can book it through our website. See some live music. Basuto Social Club is great for live champeta music, and they have like free classes included. So I would definitely include that. The wall is amazing. It's was built from 1590 onwards, and you can sit and walk and play on it. You can bring along drinks and watch sunset. You can make out with your girlfriend. It's the best public seating, and it's so romantic. And I just love to sit there and think about all the people that have sat on the wall, and it's free. So yeah, I definitely think include the wall in some way.
How about for nature? What are some unmissable two things? Because people come here for the beaches, and I've heard Baru's really nice. What are the two unmissable things that people should see when they come here?
Well, I really love the mangroves of La Boquilla area. It feels like you're in another world. It's absolutely quiet. You can see incredible bird life. The whole ecosystem is thriving. And you're just like on a very leisurely place, floating along through the water on a canoe. I really love that as a nature experience, and nice to see green, because Cartagena is amazing, especially for its beaches, but I think the eyes miss seeing green, and I go there for that. In terms of the islands, I do a lot about managing people's expectations about the islands. They are beautiful, but unfortunately there hasn't been a lot of regulation in terms of the development. So somewhere like Baru, Playa Blanca, which was somewhere that I absolutely loved, is now somewhere I would be hesitant to recommend, because it is really touristy, really developed on the beach. Unfortunately, not disposing of their rubbish in a good way. And so what would I recommend? Sorry, I went on a tangent. I would probably go to like a smaller island club and stay overnight. And if your budget can allow that, somewhere that is not a big place, somewhere that's just like a small boutique, the minimum of rooms, and overnight, so that any day visitors will go and you have that experience in the nighttime.
Sure.
If you stay on Isla Grande or nearby, there's a lake called Lago Encanto, and you can actually swim with phosphorescent plankton, which is a really nice experience depending on what the moon's doing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for those suggestions, because I mean, there's so many options. We were looking at things to do, and we're like what? There's so many millions of things.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. To wrap everything up, I would like to just have you repeat the places that people can find you at on your website, your social medias. And yeah, we'll finish it up like that.
Okay, great. So thank you for your time in this. You can find me on the website, cartagenaconnections.com, and shoot an email through to info@cartagenaconnections.com with any questions if you want to book anything. Follow me on social media at Instagram, Cartagena Connections, or personally, Ola Kristy. Ola's spelled with an H. And Facebook is Cartagena Connections, and soon YouTube.
Soon on YouTube. What will you call the channel when you get
Cartagena
it?
Connections.
There you go. Awesome. Well, guys, if you're finding value in all my content, hit that like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit me a donation on the Buy Me a Coffee, buymeacoffee.com. And as always, hasta la próxima.